My wife and I met when we were teenagers in high school. We lived a few houses down from each other, and when I moved to the neighborhood, she was very welcoming. She introduced me to all of the friends that I made, and we were a part of the same friend group. Actually, we grew very close over the years. We knew each other, and eventually I confessed to her that I had feelings. To my surprise, she had them too. We started dating, and it really seemed like I had found the love of my life. While we were still in high school, she really leaned on me for support during a tough time. Her father had cheated on her mother with an employee at the store he owned. They went through a very nasty, bitter divorce, and my girlfriend was very upset with all of it. She got pregnant the summer after we both graduated high school. It put a bit of a damper on our big plans for the future. Her going to college wasn't feasible, since we couldn't afford any daycare options for a baby while she was in school, nor could we afford to send both of us to a university. I ended up going to a technical school and getting certified in HVAC installation and repair. That wasn't what I wanted to do by any means, but after I finished, I landed a good job that paid well enough for me to take care of my family. We got married shortly after, and everything started to feel like it was falling into place. My wife was an incredible mom. We were all happy and healthy, and we were actually looking into buying a house. My wife was very close with her mother. I hate to say it, but I almost thought they were too close. I could tell that my mother-in-law's demeanor toward my wife changed after the divorce. She started treating my wife more like a friend than a daughter. I knew she just needed somebody to talk to and sort through her own problems, but a big part of me felt like that was inappropriate. After their divorce, I didn't remember my mother-in-law ever dating anybody else. Just when we would go out to dinner with her, she would comment on how cute a server was or mention there was a handsome guy checking her out, but nothing ever came of those comments. My wife was the one to encourage her to get on the dating apps. She helped her make her profile, and she even helped her prepare for a couple of dates that she went on. After a few weeks of casual dating, my mother-in-law called my wife one night proclaiming that she was in love. She talked all about this incredible man that she met and how she instantly saw a future with him. My wife was excited for her, partially because she knew that if she had another man in her life, she might avoid oversharing with her. My mother-in-law continued dating that man for a few months before she introduced him to us. To all of our surprise, when she introduced him to us, she introduced him as her husband. They had apparently eloped. It was a big shock to my wife and me. Personally, I thought my mother-in-law had lost her mind after everything she had gone through with her divorce. It was very unexpected for her to behave in such a way. However, I couldn't deny that it seemed like they really care for each other. The man was good-looking, had a good job, and was very charismatic. He seemed like an all-around good guy. I actually found that I liked talking to him about certain things as well. Just over the next several weeks, he was slowly being integrated into our family. We let him meet our daughter, and he was introduced to other relatives at family gatherings. Nobody would have suspected that anything was awry. A few months had passed since he was introduced into our lives, and my wife started to change. She was growing very distant from me emotionally and physically. We were hardly talking to each other about anything other than our daughter. It seemed like she was avoiding every other topic I brought up, even ones as trivial as television shows that I was excited about. After the birth of our daughter, our sex lives definitely slowed down, but it had never been halted altogether. Every time I would try to initiate anything, my wife would tell me she had cramps or a headache and wasn't in the mood. I was starting to feel like there was something wrong with me. One night, she came to me and told me that she needed a night off. I was kind of confused about what she meant because she didn't have a job. When I brought that up, we got into a huge argument about how raising our daughter was a full-time job and how she thought it was disrespectful of me to ignore the work she was doing. I had no idea she felt that way, so I apologized and told her that she could book a room at a local spa for a night and relax while I took care of everything at home. Her night at the spa came and went, and when she got home, it felt like she was back to her old self. She was happy and smiling, and she told me all about the massages she got and how much she needed the rest. That same night, I tried to initiate sex, and she rejected me again. I didn't pressure her into explaining or anything like that, but once again, I felt very slighted by her. Still, I never suspected her of cheating. I just thought that there was something wrong with me. I started to take that sentiment to heart, and I was feeling really depressed about it. I had never been the type of person to open up about my feelings, so I didn't know how to ask her about it. One night, my wife was exhausted, so I told her to go hop in a bubble bath, and I would put our daughter to bed. I went about my end of the bargain, and I read my daughter a story before tucking her in, and when she was asleep, I made my way out to just go channel surfing until I was ready for bed. As I was walking by the bathroom, I heard my wife moaning inside. Honestly, what she did in the bathroom was her own business, so I wasn't immediately suspicious that something else was going on. I just figured she was enjoying herself. The following day, my wife and I were in the backyard playing with our daughter. We were all sitting on the porch, and my wife had to jump up to throw some clothes in the dryer. She left her phone behind, but I didn't think about going through it at the time. I actually found the evidence on it by accident when I grabbed it to take a picture of our daughter while she was doing something cute. It was something I had done dozens of times in the past. It was just the closest phone to me. Akin noticed from the thumbnail in the corner of the camera that the most recent picture taken was of my wife while she was in the bath. I was curious, so I clicked on it really quickly and saw that it was a video. I immediately closed it and pretended like I didn't see anything while I was outside with my daughter, but I couldn't stop thinking about why my wife would have had that video on her phone. It certainly wasn't something that she sent to me, so it didn't make sense why she would have it. Pictured that night while everybody was asleep. I got up to go to the bathroom and decided I wanted to investigate the matter more. I grabbed her phone and looked through it for more information about why she took that video. I was curious if she had sent it to anyone. As I looked, I felt my entire world being ripped out from under my feet. She had sent the video to someone. She sent it to her new stepfather. I read through their text message exchanges, and I noticed that there had been several times he requested pictures and videos from her. First, their entire affair began when her stepfather texted her for very inappropriate advice on what kind of lingerie he should surprise her mother with. My wife first replied saying that she had no idea. Then he asked her what she would wear. From there, the messages all turned sexual, and she sent him several pictures of her wearing lingerie that I bought for her. They exchanged countless pictures of each other naked, and from what I could tell, they had met up for sex at least once. The night my wife spent at the spa, she invited him over and they spent the entire night together. I felt sick to my stomach learning about that. It was the ultimate breach of my trust, and I didn't know how I was going to move forward. My wife was the love of my life, and she took my heart and crushed it. We had a family together, and she was throwing it all away. What turned my self-pity into absolute anger was when I remembered her coming home from the spa and telling me about everything that happened. That's the massages and everything were things that her stepfather had given her, and she told me about them by covering up the true nature of it all. I took countless screenshots and sent myself an email with everything. I would be using all of that in our impending divorce. Before I gave her the papers, I knew right away that I wanted to get back at her in some way. They both needed to face the consequences of what they did. Some time had passed, and I was still trying to figure out how I wanted to go about ending my marriage. My mother-in-law actually contacted us and told me that she was going to be throwing a party for the entire family to officially celebrate her marriage. It was going to be kind of like an unofficial wedding reception. I figured it would be the perfect time to expose both of them. The day of the party came, and once everybody was gathered around the table for dinner, I stood up to give a toast. I started by telling the man that he had been welcomed into all of our lives with open arms, and everybody thought he would be great for my mother-in-law. Then I told him that we were all wrong. Everybody was confused, but I explained that I knew he had been sending inappropriate things to my wife, and that they had slept together. They both tried to lie right in front of everyone and say that it wasn't true, but I had receipts. There was no denying what I saw. At the end of it, except Anne, I handed my wife the divorce papers that I had filed days before and told her that I wanted her out of our house. My mother-in-law was absolutely heartbroken, more so from the betrayal of her daughter sleeping with the man she loved than anything. My wife chased after me when I walked away, trying to convince me to have a conversation with her. I told her that she wasn't worth my time anymore, and that she should try to talk to her mother, who she stabbed in the back. A few days after all of that, my former mother-in-law reached out to me and told me that she was very sorry about everything that happened. She felt guilty for bringing that man into everyone's lives. Right away, I told her that it wasn't her fault. If they were both willing to cheat so easily, it was bound to happen in the future. She told me that she was trying to find a way to forgive her daughter, but didn't think that she could. My wife and I ended up getting divorced, and I have the house and custody of our daughter. I still stay in touch with my former mother-in-law because I know how difficult it has all been for her, and the last thing I wanted was for her to feel like she lost her granddaughter too. I hardly talk to my wife anymore aside from arrangements for custody changes and visits. My mother-in-law divorced her husband and was actually entitled to spousal support from him, so it's nice knowing that he's giving her a good portion of his paychecks now. I'm so sorry you had to go through all of this. The actions of your wife and your mother-in-law's husband are absolutely abhorrent. Cheating is already horrible as it is, but to betray your husband and mother the way that your wife did is despicable. I honestly wonder how she was able to sleep at night when she was doing what she did. You did the right thing by telling everybody when you found out. It seems like the affair was going on for quite some time. That's why she was pulling away from you, and you could sense that. It's awful how she told you about everything that happened at the spa when she got back. It definitely seems like she was telling you about the affair in some sick way. I'm glad that you still have a good relationship with your former mother-in-law. She definitely deserves to still see her granddaughter after everything that happened. I know for both of you it's going to be very difficult to move on and try to find other people, especially for her after being cheated on by 2 husbands. I wish both of you nothing but the best in the future. Now, let's move on to our next story. Here's my story. We met on a dating app, and things quickly escalated from casual to serious between us. We only ever wanted to spend time with each other. I knew right away there was something different about her that I hadn't found in any other woman. Before we slept together for the first time, we talked about STDs and testing. I'm very particular about my health, and even though I use protection with women, I still get tested every 6 months. My girlfriend told me that she visited an OB-GYN every 6 months and got tested there as well. At the start of our relationship, we were both negative for everything they tested for it. After we became official, I still got tested. I knew that there were some rare instances where you could catch things from sharing towels or water bottles, but maybe that was just my paranoia. Regardless, my health insurance covered it, so I didn't care. I never suspected that anything was wrong in our relationship until I got the results of my STD test. It's Nick Station's X-Pacifical. I had gone in for my regular checkup, and I expected the same old news that I always got. Instead, my doctor called me with the results and told me that I had trichomoniasis. I was shocked to hear that I had contracted something because the only person I'd been with was my girlfriend. I hadn't felt any symptoms or anything either. He explained to me what it was and that it often goes undetected. He put me on a series of antibiotics right away that would clear it up. As soon as I found out that I had it, I needed to talk to my girlfriend. I didn't know how else I would have gotten it. Later that night, I sat her down in the living room and I explained everything. I didn't accuse her of cheating, but I asked her about the last time she was tested. I asked her if she could go over the results to see if maybe she misread something, and she actually came back positive for it. She was offended that I was accusing her of lying about her results, but that wasn't the case. Before we got into a big argument about it, I explained to her that it couldn't have been something that was picked up from somebody shaking my hand after they didn't wash theirs in the bathroom. I assured her that I wasn't accusing her of anything, but I just needed to know where it came from. Regardless, she needed to get tested for it as well. She scheduled an appointment for the following day and went in for the testing. It took about 5 days for the results to come back, and she told me that it was negative. While we were waiting for the results, she had been acting very strangely. She could hardly look me in the eye when we would speak, and it seemed like she was trying to avoid me. I think that she would have cheated, but I couldn't help but wonder if it was her guilty conscience keeping her away from me. She was on her phone a lot more than usual, and that struck me as odd. This is going to sound mean, but she didn't really have any friends. I didn't know who she was texting with so often. When she told me that her results came back negative, something told me that she was lying. T. I didn't know if it was the way she said it or what, but my gut told me not to trust it. I knew that she got an email with the results in it, so the first chance I had to take a look for myself. I found the email to read it. Through the email, I found out that she was lying. She had the same TD as me. The thing about it is, I would have understood if she had it. If I had it for a while without knowing, I could have transmitted it to her. There would have been no shame in telling me the truth. It was treatable, and I had the same thing. I couldn't figure out why she would lie about it. The only reason I could think of was that she was trying to cover up the fact that she gave it to me. I had never snooped through her phone before, so I felt bad right away as I started looking. It didn't take long for me to find out that she was cheating on me. I found a text message exchange between her and an unsaved number where she informed the person that she tested positive for trichomoniasis. She asked them if they had it, and they told her they didn't think they did. But when she asked them about the last time they were tested, they said like 2 years ago. You might have guessed by what I mentioned earlier, but I am a little bit of a hypochondriac. I was very particular with my girlfriend when we first started dating about STDs and testing. But the fact that she cheated on me with some random person who didn't even know when the last time they were tested scared me. I thought it was incredibly reckless to not have that conversation with someone. Through their other messages, I could see that they had slept together several times and were carrying out an ongoing affair. They were sending each other pictures and suggestive messages while figuring out times to get together. It's in one message, the person mentioned that their partner was out of town and invited my girlfriend over. That and the cheating. I knew that my relationship was over. I want nothing to do with somebody who would sneak around behind my back with another person. I didn't say anything at first when I found out that for some reason, I felt bad about snooping through her phone, so I needed to find another way to tell her. I knew about the cheating. She told me the following afternoon that she was going to be staying late at work. I remembered what I read in the messages about her going over to this random person's house because their partner wasn't home. I knew what I had to do. I took the rest of the day off work, and I waited outside of my girlfriend's office so I could follow her to the other person's house. I saw her leave right on time, and I followed her to a house in the suburbs. She was welcomed inside by another man who quickly ushered her in through the front door. It was obvious he didn't want his neighbors to see anything. I noticed that there was some mail in the box, so I did something illegal and took a peek to find out what his name was. I got both his name and his wife's name. After I found that and saw my girlfriend go inside the house, I didn't need to stick around for anything else. I already knew that they were having an affair, so it didn't matter if they were having sex there or not. When I got home, I looked up his wife on the internet. I wasn't positive if it was her, but I found her name attached to a small designer brand that had a booth set up at a local wedding convention. I thought that maybe things were aligning, and that could have been the woman. I reached out to her, and I asked her if the man was her husband because I had something to share with her. Her DMs were open for business inquiries, so I hoped she wouldn't just report me as spam. She replied asking me more about what I knew, and I explained everything to her. She called me shortly after, and we talked about everything over the phone. She confirmed that it was her husband and told me that she didn't have any STDs and she got tested regularly. She told me that she planned on confronting him when she returned from the convention. I sent her everything I could in regard to evidence, and she thanked me for it. I then just tried to focus on what to do to get back at my girlfriend. She was reckless, and she cheated on me and she gave me an STD. Yes, it was a curable one, but it didn't matter. The more I thought about what I wanted to do to get revenge, the more I realized I didn't want to see her ever again. She really had very few people in her life, and I knew that losing me in itself would be a big blow to her. She canned me for everything, and I was going to take that away from her. I figured I had a few hours before she got home to get my stuff together and disappear. I packed up all of my clothes and some of the essentials that I had around the house, like my television and computer. Before I left, I printed out pictures of some of the messages I found alongside the test results I had sent myself. I left all of them in a nice little envelope on the kitchen table and walked out of the apartment forever. I didn't leave a note explaining how I felt or what I was doing. She was left to figure all of that out on her own. I blocked her number and I called one of my friends to see if I could crash at their place. I explained what happened and told them to keep my being there a secret, and they agreed. Several hours later, he got a call from my girlfriend, and she asked him if I was there. He lied, and she moved on to the next person. I almost felt bad because I knew how worried she probably felt, but I didn't want to care. She wasn't my problem anymore. A few days passed, and I reached back out to the wife of the man my girlfriend cheated with just to check in. We had a quick call, and she explained everything that happened. They were separating, which was good. The best part of all of it was that she had a very successful business, and he had just been laid off from work. He'd been trying to convince her to invest in a business of his, which she was going to do. After everything, she decided it was not in her best interest to do that. So she left him, and he had no income whatsoever. I told her about what happened with my girlfriend, and she thought it was hilarious. But when she looked through her husband's phone, she saw that my girlfriend had contacted him several times after I left. She was very broken up about everything and needed someone to talk to. But he didn't want anything to do with her aside from sex. So my girlfriend was completely alone handling everything. I'm glad that I found out about my girlfriend's character when I did. I truly cared about her a lot, and before finding out, I could have seen a future with her. But P, from the way you made it sound, you're on top of your own health, and for somebody to know how much you care about that and still behave so recklessly is disrespectful. Having that conversation at the beginning of the relationship should have made your girlfriend aware of your concerns, regardless of whether you mentioned it at any point later on. It is a strange thing for her to have lied about her test results, especially after you told her you weren't accusing her of cheating and explained different ways the disease could have been contracted. The lying seems to be what really sealed her fate in all of this. I think disappearing from her life completely was a good way to get back at her from the way it sounds. If she truly had nobody else to go to, then that would be something that would hurt her more than anything else. I think it's funny that she reached out to the man she was having an affair with, and he didn't want anything to do with her emotions. Karma has a funny way of getting back at people. Thank you all for taking the time to listen to today's stories. If you enjoyed listening, please feel free to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, comment below with your thoughts on what happened. If there is a story you would like to share with me about your own situation or someone else's, then please do not hesitate to contact me. Take care.